Holy cow. Wow. Huh. All right. Most everybody made it back. I want to kind of start moving in the direction of the other side of the paper. I want to make sure you guys really understand why matrices work the way they do. We know the goal. What's my goal with this? What do I want to make this look like?
Zeros?
Where? Not everything's zeros. That would suck. What did we just say a minute ago? One's on the... Yeah, so my goal is 1, 0, 0, 1 with some numbers here, right? Because then I know x equals number, y equals number. Does that make sense by itself? I mean, that's... If I can make it look like that, then I could just read the answers off, right? So we have to start wondering, okay, how do I make it look like that? Well, every step we do with matrices is really the exact same kind of steps we would do solving this by hand, because they're supposed to be the same thing. It's just another way to write it. Can somebody tell me what's the first thing you would do to try to solve this system by hand? What's the very first thing you would do?
Times the top one by -2.
Elimination?
Yeah, you could do that. But you see, like I said, do you see how this is already? Okay, so I want to get into this in a very certain way to make it easier to kind of get into, and then we can start talking about other ways to do things. Because there's a 1 right here. If I multiply this row by 3, it becomes 3x plus 6y equals 21. And then I can add those together, right? Equivalently, it's in that bottom. The same way, we can multiply that row by 3. Stay with me. What does that row represent? What is that? Where did that row come from? That equation. So anything I can do to equations, I can do to the rows. Because the freaking rows are equations. How are we doing? Okay. So I could take this, I could take row 1, multiply it by 3. I'm going to show a lot more steps than I hope that we have to do eventually. Let's see, one advantage matrices have that you guys probably don't think is an advantage at first is it continuously brings along the best equations at the moment, right? What would I do next year? I would add these together, right? And in terms of a matrix, what would that look like? It's just adding the 2 rows together. And do you agree, when I add these together, we had this discussion yesterday, these 2 equations still exist, but don't I make a better equation when I add those together? Why? Because I've lost one of my unknowns. So by hand, this will look like those could die. I get 10y equals 23. Don't worry about the gross answer. I don't care. You guys still with me? No, that everybody should be with me because that's old news. Now, what's that look like in the matrix? I just add these rows together, but I have to tell myself where to put the answer. This is better than either one of those because it's lost a variable. Right there, is that cool? So I can overwrite either one of these I want. Do you notice there's going to be a 0 in that first spot when I add those together? And where do I want a 0 in the first spot? In the second row. Okay, so then I want to put the answer in the second row. So when I do 3 row 1 plus row 2, put the answer in row 2. So I've already done 3 row 1. If I add those together, this becomes 0, 10, 23, which is, of course, exactly this here. Okay, now, I told you guys, when we get into this, part of your brain is going to say, what the shit was wrong with this, Jeff? All this shit. But, like I said, this is just one tiny thing you can do with matrices. It's a beautiful way to get introduced to matrices, because how does a calculator solve these things? It really does exactly what we're doing. Now, look at this first row. Would I leave the first row like this? Would I leave it like 3, 6, 21? No, I would probably divide by 3 again. So do you see, stay with me. Why did I multiply by 3 in the first place? So that would cancel. After that's gone, do I still need these multiplied by 3? No. So part of the way I do this process with the matrix is I don't rewrite the stupid matrix. That's what makes this really long, is if you have to rewrite the matrix over and over and over again, then you really start to lose faith in the whole thing. So instead of doing this like that, what I do is I tell myself what the hell I'm doing. 3 row 1 plus row 2, put the answer in row 2. Is that cool? That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply row 1 by 3, add it to row 2, and put the answer in row 2. Again, why? Isn't that exactly what we would do here? This represents this, so of course I'm going to do the same exact damn thing over there. It's just going to look different. Yes, ma'am?
So we started with the top matrix, then we multiply the top by 3.
Yep.
And then we subtract the 6, we add the 6 to the 4.
We added these 2 rows together. To get 3 minus 3 is 0.
So you only multiply by 3 once.
Yeah, I only had to multiply by 3 once, and then these would cancel each other.
Okay.
Yeah, I like it.
3R1 plus R2.
Yeah, what's R1 represent?
Row 1.
Row 1, which really represents equation 1. Plus R2, because then these would die, right? 3 row 1 plus R2 would put a 0 right there. Why is a 0 right there good? Because that's my goal, and it means that variable died, right?
So now you would write the first equation on top of the new
You ready?
equation?
Here we go. Here's exactly what I do, personally, when I do this. Is everybody cool with the fact that I only need to multiply by 3 just for a second to kill that one?
Yeah.
And then I want it to go back to 1, 2, 7 again. That's right?
Yeah.
So I don't rewrite the whole damn thing with like a 3 times a row in there. I just do this. I put 3, 6, 21. I don't actually rewrite the whole thing. I just put next to it what it would be. And then I can just do 3 minus 3 is 0. Put the answer in row 2, right? 0. 6 and 4 is 10. 21 and 2 is 23. And then I rewrite row 1 on top. 1, 2, 7. Yes?
But then you're not getting the 10Y.
Yes, we are. What happens? What does this second row say? 0x plus 10y equals 23. That's right? So what are we doing right now? Why is this taking a long time? Because we're trying to figure out what do matrices do, how do they relate to what we would do anyway? What does it look like when it's in a matrix? Yes?
But the 2 and the 4
2 and the 4.
don't add up.
2 and 4. Of course they don't, because what am I adding to this row? 3 times row 1. There's 3 minus 3 is 0. 6 plus 4 is 10. 21 plus 2 is 23. Now, obviously, if you would rather rewrite the matrix with 3, 6, 21 in there and then add them together, you can. It's just going to add time on top of what you've got to do. I'm trying to show you some time-saving tips from the beginning. All right. So let's do this. You guys, since we got the idea, and what's really nice about this being a 1? What's my goal? Have a 1 right there, right? All right, take a little baby steps. So the really nice thing with matrices is it takes our attention away from killing variables over and over again to finding a 1, making zeros, finding a 1, making zeros. It kind of refocuses us. If I have a 1 somewhere, it can be used to kill anything else above or below it. If I had a 5 above it, I can multiply this by -5. I can kill it. I can make zeros. I'm trying to make zeros. What's the easiest way to make zeros? If I had a 1. Because what can a 1 do? It can become anything I want it to be, easily. Maybe. Let's do this. Let's just do, on the other side of that sheet we were just working on earlier. Do you see those things called elementary row operations? They're just the things we're allowed to do to rows. And again, what does each row represent? An equation. So everything we're allowed to do with equations, like what? Multiply the entire thing by something, divide the entire thing by something, add 2 of them together. We're allowed to do all those things. So, of course, every row operation. And also, I could switch 2 rows, right? Because that's just switching the order of the equations. Who cares what order these are in? So try to do those 3 right there. Do what they say to do. Like that first one says, switch row 1 and row 3. That one shouldn't be overly taxing. Try to do the 3 things it asks you to do right there. So do the switch row 1 and row 3 and write what it would look like now. Write the whole matrix, what it would look like after you do that. How many columns do you have in there? 4. And how many rows? 3. Sure. But that shouldn't affect switching row 1 and row 3.
This is what the homework's gonna be like? To ask questions like this to switch rows?
No.
Oh.
I don't know if you're being optimistic about.
I was like, what we were working up there seems way more complicated than this.
So
Yes.
this doesn't change anything. It's just changing the order of the equations being listed.
Yeah, the first thing, why does it make sense that I should be allowed to switch 2 rows? Because it's just changing the order of the equation. Who cares what order they gave me the equations, right? That's why it makes sense that one of the basic things I could do is switch 2 rows.
To make it easier to, see stuff maybe.
Yes.
We're gonna go back to that and you're gonna show us how
Of
to
course.
get to that goal.
This is me trying to show you why we want to do this.
Yeah,
I
but we're gonna
want-
get to that goal.
I want to
though,
be able to
right?
get here. Well, to
Yeah.
get here, I have to know what the shit I can do with the matrix.
Okay.
And that's this and that. I like it. Yes?
So the example we did is for just 2 rows. Do we just ignore this? Do we ignore this?
Yeah, you're only ever doing, until you get more comfortable with it, you're only ever doing something with 2 rows, right? You're switching them, you're adding them together, and 1 row is just sitting there like something when you're done. By the way, if you're curious about my shirt,
It's a tangent.
so my other class, they have a test today. I already wore my Show Your Work shirt this week. So this is for them. This is calculus. This is where they calculate tangents,
Were they took calculus in the summer?
apparently. That's actually better, because if you're only taking that and you're meeting more days of the week, less time to forget, and you can focus entirely on it.
Calculus?
Yes. Well, somebody will look at you and say, 110 in the summer? I mean, same thing, just different.
I guess.
So once you've gotten through pre-calculus, calculus is actually not as horrible as pre-calculus. I'm not trying to make you feel bad if you got to take pre-calc. But I tell my students on the first day of pre-calc, I say, this is graphing hell. Because you want to get to calculus, have the graphs be right there for you, and then you can focus on the calculus. So one huge thing pre-calculus does is to really grill into you, how do you graph, what does everything look, what's the basic look of every graph, how do you move them around, what's it do, how do you tell when the top and the bottoms are. So you just analyze the hell out of graphs is a huge part of pre-calc. So when you get to calculus, you can do the graph and then you can do the calculus on top of it, and the graphs aren't killing you. You've already gone through that, is the hope.
Yeah, they fuse pre-calculus and trig into one.
Totally, yeah. That's what pre-calc really is. Yeah.
Trig too? What would you
Totally.
suggest to take after this class?
So guys, real quick, I think, yeah, registration just started, right?
Yeah.
All right. Anybody have to take trig and pre-calc, like 170, 175? All right, and then there's 176 that puts those two together, one less unit, but it is 6 units, so it's kind of a beefy class, but it's one less unit to get those 2 classes done. So you can either take 170, 175, or you can take 176, which is those two combined.
What's 178?
178 is business calculus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you could take that after this. It's highly recommended you take 175 before you take
Oh, really?
178. But you could do 178 without 175. It's
But
just-
would I need them both?
if you took 175 and passed it, you would just 178 would be so much easier. But to be honest, what kills people on 178 is they can't factor worth shit. If you go into that knowing how to factor, you're ahead of the game.
I'm definitely good at that.
All right.
Okay.
Coming back to, is anybody going to do the 170, 175 option, do you think? Take 170, 175? No?
I'm out of here, 120.
Yeah, if you have to take pre-calculus, you could do 176.
There's the 120.
How many guys are going to do 176 that need to do pre-calc? Okay. Well, you rose your hand the other way, too. How many are doing the 170 and 175 separate? Anybody? Okay.
Same.
So right now, you want to figure out what the hell you need.
I think I gotta do 178 and 160.
Take 178 before 160.
Yeah, that's
Statistics
what I was
has
told.
very little algebra in it.
Yeah, okay.
178 is all about algebra.
Okay.
So I feel
Yeah,
so
that's
bad
what
for the
I'm
people that
saying.
take 160 and then 178 because the algebra's gone and then they die in 178. If you got to take 170 and 175, if you want to go that route, you want to take 175 first. If you're not going to do them both in the same semester, because 170 is trigonometry, which is kind of like brand new shit. 175 is the continuation of algebra. So I feel so bad for the people like 170 and then 175 the next semester, they've forgotten all their algebra. So the numbering system is not always the best. And it's just sort of the way it kind of flushed out and how we created curriculum over the years. So, oh well. Is that decent? Anybody taking like 120 or 160?
120.
120?
What's
Okay.
120?
120 is like basic general ed math that transfers. When I teach that class, I teach Egyptian hieroglyphic numbers and Babylonian numbers. And what would our
Yes,
what would our
that's
numbers look
awesome.
like if it was base 8? If we didn't have a pinky, we'd have a base 8 number system instead of base 10. What would that look like? We do stuff with that. I'm not teaching in this semester, but oh well. All right.
You would be fun in that class.
Oh, I love that. Well, anyway, I used to love that class. And the last couple times I taught it, it was not fun. So I don't know what's happening. Okay. So if I switch row 1 and row 3, why do you think that's even there? Why would I want to switch row 1 and row 3?
Row 1 is more simple.
What's our goal again? 1, 0, 0. Oh, so what's the very first thing I want up there in that corner? A 1. There, a 1 right here. So if I switch these, don't I get one step closer to my goal? Everything I do, I want it to get me closer to 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1 with a bunch of numbers. That's my goal. Everything I do gets me in that direction, right? So if I switch those two, it really is just freaking put that one there. Now again, they left off their lines. Oh well. Leave that one alone. It's not involved here. And then put the first one down here. That's all it is, right? It's just switching those two. Yes?
Is the last column always going to be what's on the other side of the equation?
Yes. And that's why I put that line there. That's the way I was taught. That's the way it should be done. But some of my colleagues disagree. That line shows you where the equal sign is. I like it. Yes?
So for the second problem, why is it that the row 1, where row 3 is that for the first one?
Now listen, they said start with the original matrix for each problem. You're just getting used to what you're allowed to do and what it looks like when you do it.
Oh, okay, got it.
So like starting from the original matrix, do you see why I might want to divide row 2 by 3? Because I can. If I can make my numbers smaller, that should make my problem easier. So anytime you see a row where everything is divisible by something, you do it. Because then all my numbers are smaller, right? So if I divide row 2 by 3, what do you get?
2, 4, negative 1, 1.
2, 4, negative 1, 1. And then the first row and the last row are just kind of sitting there like, all right, that's nice. So that's one where you just deal with one row at all. You just divide that row by something.
By the GCF, pretty much? 1/3? Or 1 over
Yeah,
GCF?
it's like GCF. Yeah. Just figure out what goes in all of them. Why am I allowed to divide a whole row by 3? What is that equivalent to? What would this equation be?
6x plus 12y minus 3z equals 3.
Equals 3. There's an equation there. That's why I swear to God, I wish they would agree with me. That's why I like that line there. So see, dividing by 3, why am I allowed to do it? Because I'm doing it to both sides of the equation that row represents. That's why I'm allowed to divide a whole row by 3, or by whatever. Because a row is an equation. Yes?
Where'd you get the 1, 3 from? Like, is it just
This?
color? Yeah.
That's just what they're asking me to do.
Okay.
But do you see why I would want to do that? Yeah, because now it makes all my numbers smaller.
Okay.
There it is, Jeff. Yeah, you got it. Okay. Now, look at the last one. The last little operation here. Now, do you see how it would be? Now, don't come at me with. Do you notice how it would be better if I used this to make a 0 here? Because now it's a 2. It's got a lot. But what are they doing here? What's the purpose? What are they trying to make happen with this -6 row 3 plus row 2? What's going to happen when they do that?
Cancel out the 6.
Yes, and isn't that getting one step closer to my goal?
Yeah.
My goal is 1, 0, 0, 0. Hey, sweet. If I can make that a 0, I'm one step closer to my goal. So everything we do, yes.
So it's saying basically for 3 is telling you to do 2 steps. First you multiply row 3 by -6 and then you come back.
Yes. So instead of rewriting the whole matrix, I'm hoping I can get some of you guys at the beginning to come with me about this idea of don't rewrite the whole damn thing. Just put next to it what they would each become. If I multiplied row 3 by -6, what would it become? -6, -18, -12,
Negative
48. Positive, right?
Positive.
Now if I add row 3 to row 2 now, I'll get -6 and 6 is 0. -10 and 12 is 2. Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
Is that -10? No, Jeff, you got to read your own writing. -18 and 12 is -6. There it is, buddy. -12 minus 3 is -15. 48 plus 3 is 51.
And then you take the original.
Yeah, and so the other ones all just stay the same. Okay. So let me move up to the board because I don't like using the overhead too much. We're gonna do that last problem together. We're just gonna do it. Shit. Hopefully you guys see the motivation for what it is we do. Oops, everybody got that? So those 3 problems, I actually agree with you. They're a little unsatisfactory, right? They don't get anywhere. But they're just really just showing you here are the types of things you're allowed to do. And then when do you want to do them? Anytime they get you closer to your goal. Okay? Okay? So let's oh shit. Here we go. Oh shit. Even though I told you that it is going to take longer to do it this way at first because we're not used to it, I'm still going to have people like, why are we doing this? It's so much quicker if you do it the other way. Shut up. I knew that. We're just learning how this works. Just write that correctly. Okay, let's just try this out. Oh, and part of this, what really sucks, when you write a problem down from the book or whatever, you triple check that sucker. If you forget a negative sign, the whole matrix goes to shit. It ain't never gonna work. So like triple check, 2, -1, 1, 4, 3, 1, 0, 5, 6, 2, 10. So negative. Yeah, okay. All right. So remember, let's keep in mind, what's our goal?
1, 0, 0,
Number,
0, 1, 0,
number,
0, 0, 1.
number. Okay. So, what is one thing I can do?
Switch to second.
Beautiful. I can switch these two. Right, that's not ground shaking, but it certainly gets the 1 in the right place. Okay. If you don't have a 1,
Yes.
let me make this point right now. Let me just make sure. The most important thing is to make zeros. What's the easiest way to make zeros? If you had a 1. Does anybody understand why that's really nice? If I have a 1, because I can multiply that by anything, whatever I need. I just multiply by what I need. If I need a 3, I multiply by 3. If I need a 7, multiply by 7. Right? If it was a 2, can I make a 7? Ah, shit. Right? So 1 is the best coefficient to have because it can become whatever you need it to be. If I don't have a 1, there's another way to do it. I don't need a 1, but it's just really nice. You guys understand? So zeros are the primary goal because that means I killed that variable. 1s are nice, but not 100% necessary. So thank God I got a 1. Let me put it in the right place. So I'm going to switch row 2 and row 1. Okay. Now, here's the thing. You ready? Get a column done and then move to the next column. Because what happens if you bounce around, make a 0 here, and then you make a 0 here, and then you make a... What you start to do is you start to lose zeros. You start to play whack-a-mole. You get a 0, and then you go over here, and then your 0's gone. And you're like, shit. You guys don't really know what I mean yet. Let's just do this problem, and then you kind of start to see what I mean. So I want to finish this whole column. So what does that mean I want to do? I want to make this become...
6. Negative 6?
0.
I want this to be 0, and that to be 0. And what's the best number in there to use to accomplish that? The 1. What do I multiply the first row by to kill the 2? Yeah, so I multiply the first row by -2. So I'm going to tell myself what the shit I'm doing, and the guy that's grading this, you're going to tell him what the hell you did. So he doesn't have to sit there and figure it out, because he might not really know. So -2 row 1. He is me, by the way. -2 row 1 plus row 2. Is everybody cool with what I've written right there so far? Do you understand why we're doing it? Do you understand what it means? Yes, yes? Okay, okay. And then I want to put the answer where? Where do I want that 0 to show up?
Row 1.
Do I want row 1 to have a 0 here?
Row 2.
Row 2. Cool. So the way I would do this, -2 row 1, I would put that here. -2. -2 times 0 is 0. -2 times -4 is 8. -2 times 5 is -10. 8. I'm not going to rewrite the whole matrix because that's just a long time. Yes?
So we basically wrote was times row 2 by -2, and then...
Row 1. So yeah, this is -2 times row 1
Oh, okay.
plus row 2. Put the answer in row 2. So now if I multiply this by -2, see how now these will cancel? So now if I add those two rows together, put the answer in row 2. What's -2 plus 2? The 0 I want. And then everything else is just whatever. 0 minus 1 is -1. 8 plus 4 is 12. -10 plus -3? -13. And then everybody else I just rewrite. 1, 0, -4, 5, 6, -1, 2, 10. In case anyone is sort of with this to the point I can say this, I personally would have done 2 things here. Because what's the next thing I'm going to do to finish this first column out?
Make 6.
Yeah, so what am I going to do with this?
Multiply by -6.
multiply this whole thing by negative 6 and then add it to this. Basically the same thing I just did, except with negative 6 in the third row. So I would have done that here, so the less I have to rewrite the damn matrix, the quicker this whole thing is. But of course, we're just getting used to it, so I'm not going to do too much of that shit. So if I take, what did we just say? What do we multiply row 1 by? Negative 6, row 1, plus row 3, because that would make a 0 show up here. And why do I want a 0 then? Because that's my goal. And then put the answer, of course, where? Row 3, because that's where I want that other 0 to show up. Okay. Guys look appropriately excited, which is not. So if I multiply this by negative 6, what do I get? Negative 6. Negative 6 times 0 is 0. Negative 6 times negative 4 is 24. Negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. That's what negative 6 row 1 is. I'm putting it up there in parentheses because I don't need that forever. I just need it for right now. No reason to rewrite the matrix with all this stuff in there. I just need it for a second. And then it can go back to what it was. So if I add that to row 3, what do I get?
0.
Yeah, I get 0, negative 1,
26.
26,
Negative 20.
negative 20. Become a 20. And then everybody else stays the same. 1, 0, negative 4, 5, 0, negative 1, 12, negative 13. Yes, ma'am.
So when you switched the rows in the very beginning,
Yes.
you don't switch it back for the original answer.
No, I don't need to. Again, from the beginning, real quick little side note. What's that first row mean? 2 x minus y plus 4z equals 8. Let me just write all this real. X plus no y minus 4z equals 5. 6x minus y plus 2z equals 10. Is that cool? That's what those are. Somebody gave this person these three equations, and then they just wrote it in matrix form. Couldn't I, from the beginning, have switched these? Does that change the answer, just switching these? Does it matter what order they tell me the equations? Does that matter? No. It doesn't matter, of course, right? Right? Doesn't matter what order. If I said solve this system of equations, and you said, why didn't you give me that one first? It doesn't matter which one I gave you first. They're both going to be used, aren't they? Who gives a shit which order I gave them to you? Here's some nails and a hammer. You're like, I can't do anything. You gave me the nails first. What? What the shit? Doesn't matter what order I give this shit in. You can use them now, right? So switching two rows just means I don't like the order you gave this to me. I'm going to switch those around. I don't understand. Are you guys okay? Is that okay? Not a big thing. Are you guys understanding? I need these three equations to work. Does it change anything to turn the order of two of them around? Does that actually change the answer? If I wrote this like this, is that suddenly completely different? Yeah, Jeff, it is if you put that. There. I mean, those are the same systems, aren't they? Oh, there's Jill, Fred, and Sam. Don't you mean Sam, Fred, and Jill? Sure. What the shit? Who? What? There's the three people over there. Here's the three equations. Oh, here's the three equations again. Same thing. Okay. Okay. So, is my first column done? Well, how do I want my first column to look? 1, 0, 0. How does it look at the moment?
1, 0, 0.
So is the first column
Yes.
done? Yes. So then I move to my second column. What's not right in my second column? What do I want to have here, a 0. Now in this problem, it's going to be pretty easy to make that happen. And really, what do I want to have here? A 1. So there's the thing I need to do to them happens to help me out with this guy too. Do you guys see? What do I want to do with this row? I want to multiply it by what? Negative 1, so that I get a 1 here. And then can't I just add these two rows together to kill this dude?
Yeah.
Notice how those zeros won't screw with each other. Are you going to lose a 0 when you add those together? No, because 0 plus 0 is 0. If you start bouncing over and making zeros all over, then this 0 you might lose him, and then this 0 you lose him, and then you're like on your 80th step, and you're like, what the shit is going on? I can't make it. No, if you do this column, this column, this column, that will never happen to you. You will never lose zeros. You guys with me? Yes?
So what if it wasn't like a 1, it was a different number?
Then it would be harder. But real quick, if it was a 3 and a 5, right? And these numbers are not divisible by 3, and these numbers are not divisible by 5, so you don't want to divide by 3 or 5 to make a 1. Are you with me? Then who gives a shit? How do you, between 3 and 5, how would you make them kill each other? You multiply him by negative 5 and him by 3, so one's negative 15 and the other one's 15. That's what I meant earlier about 1s are not necessary. They're nice, but they're not necessary because what are you trying to do? Make zeros. Can't we make zeros other ways? Just like I said, 3 and 5, multiply this one by negative 5, multiply him by 3, you get negative 15 and 15. They're going to die. They're going to make a 0. Yes?
So wouldn't you want the negative 4 to be 0, but are you doing negative
I'm
1
doing the
first?
next column.
Okay.
I get the first column done. Now I'm doing the second column.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not worried about this shit yet. This is just whatever's happening to make this right is just happening over here. They're just taking it. They're like, ah.
There's still more.
Hey, I love you guys. Oh, you're all like, make today stop. No. All right. Do you guys get the, I know you don't totally get this, but do you see some of why I'm doing what I'm doing? I mean, I know you guys are all cool with the fact that 0 is a good thing, because that's the same thing as killing a variable, which is really what started this whole thing. Hopefully you understand why that's our goal. I mean, if you put those two things together, that's my goal, and zeros means the variables are dead, then I keep making more zeros and get closer to this. That's really, it becomes like a little game, to be honest. So what did we just say we wanted to do here? I want a 1 here. Please let this be cool. Can I just do that? Is that all right? Yeah. Okay, thank God. Again, anything you could do to not rewrite the damn matrix over and over again, you are highly motivated to do that, because you're going to be like, God damn it, I'm going to just keep writing this over. So now what do I do to make this what it's supposed to be? Add those two rows. So add row 2, let me bring it up here. Row 2 plus row 3, and put the answer where?
In row
Where do I want the 0 in the second column?
3.
I want it in row 3. So it's not a bad idea to write this down at the beginning of the problem and keep looking at it. I'm going, okay, where do I want the 0? So if I add those together, let's see. So the first row is not involved in this shit. He's just on the sidelines going, you guys work your beef out. 0 plus 0 is 0. 1 minus 1 is 0. Negative 12 plus 26 is 14. 13 minus 20 is negative 7. And then here I got my 0, 1, negative 12, 13. Okay.
Can you write down what you did for R2, the previous step before this? When you just changed it
Oh,
to
yeah, right here I did negative 1 times row 2. Cool. So row 2 plus row 3, I put the answer in row 3.
I thought the 20 was positive, not negative. In row 3.
Right here it was negative 30 plus 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Now, what can I divide this by right now? 7. Okay. Let's do that. Now, I know I want a what here? What do I want right here? A 1. If I make a 1 here, don't I get a fraction there? Don't make fractions until you're done. I mean, so don't force a 1. What did I say? 1s are not important. They're nice, but they're not important. So I don't want to make fractions when I'm in the middle of doing shit. I don't want to multiply fractions and add them together if I don't have to. So I'm going to divide this by 7. And what do you get then? You get row 3 divided by 7. What do you get when you divide this by 7? 2. Negative 1. All right, so are we done with we were already done with it, but are we done with the second column? Yes, it looks the way it's supposed to. So now I can focus all my attention on the third column. Yes? No? Okay. Yes?
Couldn't you use the negative 4 and the 12 now?
I'm about to do stuff. How do you mean? I'm sorry.
Instead of changing or dividing by 7, couldn't you?
All right, now watch. Right here, are you saying use this to kill this?
Or one step earlier.
Yeah, this is one step earlier. This is one step after.
That's that one.
So right here, now watch. If I use this to kill this, I'm going to lose that 0, am I not?
Oh,
You guys see that?
Yeah.
What is the most kick-ass row up here at the moment? Yeah, the third row. Those zeros won't screw with any of my zeros or 1s. I'm going to use him to kill these 2. In fact, I think of this as a laser. Right? When I kill a tumor, I don't want to kill the nice things around it, right? When I kill this, I don't want to kill the other shit. I don't want to mess with it because that's exactly the way I want. Those zeros are not going to screw with anybody else. I'm going to focus my laser on the parts I want to die. Maybe you and the laser should get a room job now. I always like to see who gets certain references. I'm getting so old now, my references are don't make any sense anymore. Oh well. So what I want to do then, how would I use that 2 to kill this negative 12? I would multiply row 3 by 6. Let me see if you guys can handle this. You ready? Here we go. So I'm going to multiply row 3 by 6. 6 row 3, and then add it to row 2. Put the answer where? That's where I want the 0. So this will be 6 times 0 is 0, 6 times 0 is 0, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. All right, so now row 2 is going to look like 0 plus 0 is 0, 0 plus 1 is 1, 12 minus 12 is 0, negative 6 plus 13 is 7. What do I know right there? What do I know?
Y equals.
Y is 7. Okay, that kicks ass. Now, now watch. This is what I was saying earlier. Let me do 2 things. Watch. Am I done with this shit right here? Did this stuff do its job? Yes, cross that out. Now what do I want? How do I kill the negative 4? I'm going to multiply row 3 by 2. So see, I'm trying to show you another way to write the matrix less often. That's going to make your work faster. So now if I take 2 row 3 plus row 1, put the answer in row 1. What's twice 0? 0. Twice 0 is 0. Twice 2 is 4. Twice negative 1 is negative 2. 0 plus 1 is 1. 0 plus 0 is 0. 4 minus 4 is 0. Negative 2 plus 5 is 3. What does that tell me? X equals 3. And then this little dude, what's the last thing that's not in the right place? What's not right? There's supposed to be a
1.
So I just divide by 2, and that's the first time I see a fraction. And why do I not freak out? Because I'm done. I don't have to use it. If I divide this row by 2 now, I get 1, 0, 0, 3. 0, 1, 0, 7, 0, 0, 1, negative 1/2.
I don't have enough.
Yes, ma'am.
After you divided R3 by 7, what was the next one?
Well, could
Oh.
you explain why you divided R3 by 7 first?
Because I can. Remember earlier I said if you see anything, a row that can be divided by something, you do it so your numbers are smaller? Would you like to use 14 to kill negative 12?
No.
Multiply this by 14, multiply this by 12? No.
So you're doing it to get the
The
one-
numbers smaller. Because how do I use the numbers in a matrix for the most part? I multiply them to kill other things. If the things I'm working with are smaller numbers, much easier to do that. So anytime I see a row that can be divided, everything can be divided by something, you do it, because then those numbers are now smaller. It only makes sense. Yes?
What was the step you did after R3 divided by
So here's R3 divided by 7 got us to here, and then I used this to kill this, and I used this to kill this.
7?
So I did 6 row 3 plus row 2, so I multiplied by 6, got a 12 here, got a negative 6 here. 0 plus 0 is 0, 0 plus 1 is 1, 12 minus 12 is 0, negative 6 plus 13 is 7.
So after you divided by 7, you multiplied by 6,
Yep.
row 3.
Yes, why did I do that craziness? How do I kill the negative 12? I multiply this by 6, so it becomes positive 12. Those will kill each other. Yes?
So it was 2 times, 6 R3 plus R2. Oh, okay, I was looking at the bottom one. Okay.
And then I did, instead of writing the matrix all over again, I crossed through that because it did its job, and I multiply this by 2 so it can kill this guy. That's one little thing you can do to keep from writing the matrix over and over and over again. That's what makes the thing long, right? Now again, right now, even though I told you earlier what was going to happen, you are experiencing that and not understanding. You need to just stop yourself. Yeah, this is long. Aw. Because we did several things that we didn't have to do, to be honest. Because we're getting used to what a matrix is and how it works. You will be highly motivated to understand the shortcuts I try to show you, because that's going to cut down on the amount of writing you do, right?
I don't even remember shortcuts.
There's only one.
What?
I don't even remember shortcuts, because you do all the stuff.
Oh, okay. Well, again, this is the first day we're working with these. It normally takes more than one time of doing something to really get it down, right?
So we're gonna be working on these tomorrow or Monday too, right? Matrix?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's do a smaller one.
Yes, please, because my brain is fried right now. So fried.
We should finish the first one that we started.
The only reason I had that there was to show you why the idea we were going to use made sense.
Oh, okay.
That's just going to have a really disgusting answer. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah. By the way, are any of you going to be future computer software, like working with programming and stuff? This kind of thing
Have fun, buddy.
will rule your life. That's why the calculator uses this to solve systems of equations, because it's just so highly programmable.
My dad.
Okay, computer or whatever, make a 1, kill everything else. It's just very programmable, right? Okay. All right, let's do this.
So it's super easy to check our answers for matrices on our
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll show you in a minute. X minus 3 equals, what? I had an idea.
Come on, Jeff.
7. Okay. Now, a very similar thing happens with word problems. When a student has a word problem and they're like, I could just see the answer. It's very similar to that whole thing about you take a driver's ed class, you're like, I could just walk to the mall. But what's the point of the class? To teach you how to drive. What's the point of this class? To teach you algebra. So that's why word problems, you just see the answer, you write it down, you're going to lose almost all the points because you didn't do the fundamental idea of this class, which is algebra. So here, yes, I know you can do this the way we did before. And like I told you, matrices actually make this a little longer than it would have been, to be completely honest with you. Why would I use a matrix to solve this unless I'm just trying to get used to how matrices work? So the whole point of these problems in matrices is just to get used to matrices. We're not trying to say, oh, look, it's better. We're not saying that. We're saying, oh, look, it's a different way. Get used to it because it actually makes other things quicker and better. Okay. What would this look like in matrix form?
1, negative
1
3,
minus
7.
3, 7. Negative 2, 1, negative 9.
Yes, all right. That's the first step, is to be able to do that, or else you're screwed entirely. And that's not it. Now, obviously, I made this. How can you tell? Why is this a really nice problem I gave you? Because there's already a 1 right there. It's very nice of me. All right. We'll do some where there's no 1s anywhere. We'll talk about what to do in that case. Right now, we're still getting used to this shit. All right. So what's the first thing? If I start with this column here.
Multiply by a positive 2.
Yeah, if I take 2 times what?
2 times row 1.
Row 1, and add it to the only other thing, row 2. Put the answer where?
In row
2, because that's where I want the 0 to show up. Right? It really actually doesn't completely matter, but if I put the answer here, I lose my 1. That's bad too. Why would I do that to myself? So this is where I say, instead of rewriting the whole thing with what twice this would be, you only need it for that moment. What is twice this? It would be 2. Negative 6. 14.